Hello everyone, I welcome you in the virtual classroom of Managerial Economics. We are discussing unit number 2, production function. As I have told you earlier that unit number 2 is divided into two parts. The first part is about economies and diseconomies of scale, and the second part is related to production function. We have already started the first part, that is economies and diseconomies of scale. I am repeating the meaning of economies of scale again. When production increases, the per unit cost reduces, that is known as economies of scale. That we have seen in the introductory lecture, that when firm increases the production from here to here, when the firm increases the production, its cost reduces from this much to this much. So the first part, I am dividing this graph into two parts. This first part is known as economies of scale. Why? Because production increases, output increases, and our cost reduces. So that is known as economies of scale. Then we have seen that economies of scale are of two types. The first type is internal economies and the second type is external economies. Internal economies means if your cost reduces due to the reasons available within the organization, then it is known as internal economies of scale. Whereas if your cost of production reduces due to the reason situated outside the organization, then it is known as external economies of scale. And we have completed internal economies that are of 9 types, that is technical economies, economies of continuation, labor economies, marketing economies, financial economies, managerial economies, risk-bearing economies, economies of research, and economies of welfare. In all these economies, we have seen that a firm has started their business newly and they have started doing expansion. They have increased the production, and due to that reason, in each of these area, they got benefit of reduced cost of production that we have discussed in the earlier lecture of this unit. And in today's lecture, we are going to discuss external economies of scale. External economies refers to gains accruing to all the firms in an industry due to the growth of that industry. All the firms in the industry, irrespective of their size, can enjoy the external economies. See, what is external economies? As I have told you the meaning, that if your cost of production reduces due to the reasons situated outside the organization, then it is known as external economies of scale. One more differentiation between internal economies and external economies is that internal economies benefit is available to single firm. In internal economies type, we have seen one of the type is of technical economies. If you use improved technology, if you use updated machinery, then definitely your cost of production reduces. But does it mean that this benefit will be available to other players in the industry? No, not at all. Why? Because you have updated the technology, so benefit will be available up to you only, not to anyone. Whereas in external economies, as I have told you earlier, that reason is outside the industry. If it is reason is outside the firm, not outside the industry. If reason is outside the firm, then it will be beneficial to all the firms within an industry. Why? Because it will be available to everyone. So that is what written here, that external economies refers to the gain accruing to all the firms in an industry. It is not like that it is available to only one industry. What is the reason that external economies benefit is available to all the industry? There is single reason that growth of industry happen, and that is why there is a benefit of reduced cost of production. Take an example that initially when we were not having mobile phones in Indian market, you know that at that time the telecommunication companies were charging the highest rates of phone calls. You know, nowadays incoming is free, but when the phone was newly introduced in the Indian market, even the incoming was charged at 5 rupees per minute. Incoming rates were 5 rupees per minute. Outgoing it is chargeable, that is but obvious. And the rate of outgoing charges were around 10 to 12 rupees. You just imagine from which era we reached up to. Now incoming is totally free and outgoing is near to free, we can say like this. You know, per minute they are not charging 1 rupee, so it is that much free, we can say, as compared to 12 rupees per minute. Yes or no? So why this benefit is available? It is not that only one company is giving this offer to us. This benefit is available to every firm. Why? Because now telecommunication industry has evolved, their number of customer has increased, so much facility is developed in the Indian economy that their cost of production has happened to reduce. So that is the reason, and that reason, that benefit is available to all the telecommunication operators. Why? Because there is a growth of industry. All the firms in the industry, irrespective of their size, can enjoy external economies. The benefit of external economies is not limited up to 1, 2, or 5 firms within an industry. It is available to each and every firm of an industry, whether it is a small scale, whether it is a medium scale, or it is a large scale. Irrespective of the size of the industry, irrespective of the size of the company, the benefit of external economies are available. The emergence of external economies is due to localization. We have firstly seen that the benefit is due to growth of industry. Secondly, the growth of industry happens at one place only. That is what written here, due to localization. If same kind of industries are situated at one place, then and then only they are having the benefit of external economies. The external economies are three different types, which are economies of concentration, economies of disintegration, and economies of information. Now let us discuss in detail. The first one, economies of concentration. When a number of firms are located in one place, all the member firms reap some common economies. As we have seen earlier, that external economies are due to localization, means all the firms, all same kind of firms are situated at one place. Then what kind of benefits are available? All the red font shows different types of benefit. The first one is about skilled and trained labor. Second one is about bank and other financial institutions. Third one is about transport and communication facility. Fourth one is about power requirement, and fifth one is about supplementary industry. Let us discuss in detail. Firstly, skilled and trained laborers becomes available to all the firms. Take an example that one company has newly started the business of textile in Jaipur. One company has newly started the business of textile in Jaipur. You know that textile is that kind of industries where special kind of labors are required. So if the firm happens to be the first firm, then can you imagine that already trained laborers are there in the Jaipur market? No, not at all. First of all, you have to hire the unskilled labor, then you will give them training, and then they will work efficiently in your organization. The second thing, you have given the training to some of the workers. Now only some workers are available in the Jodhpur market to work for textile industry. Yes or no? If you want more laborers, other laborers will be untrained only. Getting it? Why? Because the industry is not developed in a particular locality. There were no such demand in the past. So why there happened to be the skillful labor in the market? No. If you want a skillful labor, then give them training. And when training will be available, if number of industries are existing in a particular locality. Getting it? Now let us imagine that textile industry is developed to an enormous extent. It is developed to a large extent. So what will happen? That employment opportunities will be created in that region that will attract the unemployed laborers from the different regions of the country. You know that in Jaipur, Biharis are also here to work for textile industries. Why? Because employment opportunities are here. So supply of labor will increase in the Jaipur region. There will be skilled, unskilled, and semi-skilled. Every kind of labors will be available in the Jaipur region. So what will happen? Supply of labor increases. You know the law of demand very well, law of supply very well. If supply increases, price reduces. So means if the supply of labor increases, wages will reduce, and if wages will reduce, your cost of production will definitely reduce. Then secondly, banks and other financial institutions may set up their branches so that all the firms in the area can obtain liberal credit facilities easily. If we talk about banking functions, then the primary functions of bank is to accept the deposit and to give the loans. Even to give the loan is a biggest business of bank only. So they are also in search of the people who needs loan. And you know that industry is a biggest area where bank can provide a loan. If there is only one company in an area, then it will not be much developed area. The firm will not be having that much name in the market as well. So they will find difficulty in getting the loan. But nowadays, you can imagine that we are having so many textile companies in Jaipur market. So even banks are established here. If we talk about past, then private banks were not here in Jaipur region. Now ICICI is there, Axis Bank is there, but in past they were not so. Why? Because Jaipur was assumed as an town market where not so many businesses are there, so their banking requirements are also less, and that were satisfied by the government banks. But now as the industry expanded, even the banks find the opportunities for developing their business. So private banks entered in this market, and they are giving loan to in a cheapest rate. As they are providing loan in cheapest rate, our financial cost, that is of interest, is reduced, and we can say our cost of production is also reduced. Then third benefit is about transport and communication facilities. If we talk about specifically for transport, then say for example, if industry is expanded, there are so many players in the industry, then their transportation of raw material and finished good will also increase. And to satisfy their requirement, even the transportation companies will find opportunities in that area. So they will even the so many transporters will come to provide them facilities. And as there is a competition between the transporters, we can get the transportation facility in a least cost. Then communication facility, just because there is expansion of industry, so many people are working there, their communication need is increased. And due to that reason, even mobile operator companies, telecom operator companies afford to establish tower for that particular region only. And due to that reason, we can get very good communication facility, and that too at a reduced rate. Then further, the power requirements can be easily met by the electricity board. You know that if you start your industry in an rural or area where no road connectivities are there, we can say remote areas. The area which is not very well connected to the other area is known as a remote area. So if your industry is established there, you cannot enjoy any kind of infrastructural facilities first of all. But if in that remote area also, if so many industries will get established, then all the all the infrastructural facilities will be developed there. So that is the reason why people like to start their business in GIDC, because GIDC is the area where there is a concentration of different kinds of industry. I'm not saying same kind of industry. We are moving bit bit ahead than our main example of same industry. In GIDC, different kinds of industries are there, but at least we can say there is a concentration of industry, and due to that reason, even the electricity board knows that in this particular area there is a high demand of electricity, so they will able to cover that area very well and provide them facility. Now you just imagine that you start your business elsewhere which is not very well connected to the roads and other industries. Will the electricity board give you special facility or attention? No, you cannot have the continuity of electricity 24/7. So if you want to have a very good power facility, you have to be established your business in the areas where same kind of industries are available. Then lastly, supplementary industries may emerge to assist the main industries. What do you mean by supplementary industries? Supplementary industries are those industry which gives allied product or help by providing different products to produce your main product. Take an example of textile industry only. The main business of textile is to color the cloth, is to prepare a cloth, right? That is a business of textile industry. And what is the allied product? What is a product which helps in that industry? That is a chemical industry. Getting it? So chemical industry will be known as a supplementary industry of textile industry, because with the help of chemical you can produce the textile product very well. You can produce cotton or any kind of cloths very good. So that is known as a supplementary industry. If in a particular locality there is an expansion of industry, then even the supplementary products industry will also be expanded in that area. You know that in Jaipur, not only textile industry but the chemical industry is having a very good market because of textile industry only. So the supplementary industry, we term it as the raw material for our product. So that industry will also be developed, and due to that reason the supplier of chemicals or the supplier of other raw materials will increase, and due to that reason the raw material will be cheaply available, which result into lesser cost of production. So this is all about economies of concentration, and we have discussed that due to concentration of same industry in one locality, there is a benefit of skilled labor, financial facility, transportation and communication facility, power facility, and of supplementary industries. Now let us move towards economies of information. The economies of information may arise because of the collective efforts of various firms. Firstly, an individual firm may not be in a position to spend enormous amount on research. However, by pooling all their resources, new inventions may become possible. The fruits of the invention can be shared by all the member firms. So what is economies of information? Economies of information is regarding R&D. R&D means research and development. You know that research and development is that area of business which requires a huge investment, and that too return is not guaranteed. What do you mean by research? Research is something where you are doing trial and error. You may have invested crores of rupees for an experiment which may happen that it doesn't give you any kind of result. You know that Thomas Alva Edison has done so many experiments, and after that he was successful in finding out the bulb, but their past experiments were failed, and how much investment he has made, such kind of result is there in experiment. You know, experiment doesn't give you guaranteed result, which due to that reason we can say that small scale industries are not able to afford to do R&D activities. Now what about if the particular locality is full of small scale firms? None of them will be able to do the R&D activity, and without doing R&D activity you cannot imagine the growth of the industry or growth of your business. R&D is compulsory for the development. So what will happen that all the firms will contribute on the basis of their capacity, and they will pool the resources, and they will have a common research and development institute. There is a common institute who will do research on behalf of all these firms. If research is successful, benefit will be available to all the firm. If research is not successful, then each firm has not lose a big amount which take their business to end. So there is a benefit in both the extreme, that if research got successful, they got very good product. So that is what economies of information. Collectively they have pulled the amount, and they have done a common research and developmental activities. Secondly, publication of statistical, technical and marketing information will be of vital importance to increase output at a lower cost. And whatever the research and developmental activities are going on, regarding that, the information will be published in one publication in one journal. So there will be journal for every industry. Like if farming is there, farming journal is there. For diamond industry, specific journals are there, where the information regarding technical, marketing and the research information will be provided, and on the basis of that information you can upgrade your firm, and by that way you can have the benefit of reduced cost of production. Then the third economies is economies of disintegration. What is disintegration? Integration simply means to join, and disintegration simply means to disassemble, to unassemble any part. Take an example. We have the car. So a car is made up of so many spare parts, like tire is there, steering is there, engine is there, body part is there, and the accessories are there. If you unjoin every accessories, tire, steering, engine, then that is known as a disintegration. When the industry grows, it becomes possible to split up the production into several processes and leave some of the processes to be carried out more efficiently by specialized firms. This makes specialization possible and profitable. I have just given you the example of car. That car is made up of tire, engine, steering, then body part is there, accessories are there. Then what does can you imagine that any firm is producing every product of car? No, some firms are having very good mastery over producing tires. Some firms are having mastery over producing engines, and some are having mastery over producing the body of the car. Now if you give them to, if you allow them to produce different spare parts, like someone will be provided the task of producing engine, then their mastery will improve, then in least cost they will be able to produce engine. Others are producing tires, so in least cost they are able to produce tire. Other firms are producing the car body parts, then they are able to produce in the least possible cost. If you yourself produce everything, the body of the car, tires, engine, everything, then you might not be able to produce in the least possible cost. Why? Because to have mastery over everything is just not possible. You can have mastery over one or two parts, yes or no? So what does it mean? If you don't have mastery, then don't produce it, you just assemble it. Purchase the tire from the industries who are able to produce in a least cost, then from the companies who are producing car bodies in a least cost, and purchase the engine. You can just assemble it and you will be able to sell in the least possible price. Your cost of production reduces and by that way your profit increases. That is what written here. This makes specialization possible. If you don't focus on producing car, you are able to produce tire in a least possible cost, then you are having specialization in tires and your profitability increases because you are producing in a least cost. For example, in cotton textile industry, some firms may specialize in manufacturing thread, some others in producing vest, some in knitting briefs, some in weaving t-shirts, etc. This is what the different tasks of the textile industries are given. Like one is manufacturing thread, second is producing vest, the third is about knitting brief, and fourth is about weaving. These are the different functions of textile industry. Instead of performing every function, we just allocate it to different firms who are having mastery over it. And our task should be of integration only, assembling only, which will result into least cost of production. The disintegration may be horizontal or vertical. Both will help the industry in avoiding duplication and in saving time and material. The disintegration may be horizontal, means if we take example of knitting brief and manufacturing thread, then these are of horizontal. We can put all them in one line of business only. But if you take an example of knitting and weaving, then it will become a vertical integration because knitting comes first and then becomes weaving. So first of all there is a knitting and then there is a weaving, so this becomes vertical. Whereas if you take the example of knitting and producing vest, then you can put them on one line, so this one line will become horizontal. So disintegration may be horizontal or it may be vertical, but the intention is to reduce time, is to reduce the wastage of material, and to reduce our cost of production. So that is all about the external economies of scale. We are keeping our lecture here only. From next lecture, we will start diseconomies of scale. Thank you.